Ark boldly claims he can defeat an assassin of this level, even as a mage. The announcer questions if Ark's provocation is a challenge to Black Skull himself. As the fight begins, his opponent reveals he's also a middle school genius. Black Skull is disgusted he has to fight a cringe attention seeker. The moment the fight begins, Ark unleashes a massive arc of fire. It begins as a classic mage versus assassin, with Ark kiting his opponent. Black Skull seethes with rage at being treated like a common mob. He explodes forward with blinding speed, weaving through the magic. Ark realizes his simple kiting strategy is completely useless against him. But Ark stops running, taunting Black Skull to close the distance. Black Skull scoffs at the mistake, instantly activating his ambush skill. He teleports behind Ark, vowing to punish him for his overconfidence. But Ark simply smirks, revealing it was all part of his plan. The ground erupts as Ark mocks him for falling into the simple trap. He lectures him that getting emotional is a fatal mistake in a game. Black Skull's pride shatters. Realizing he was lured into a trap, he's blasted to the ground, the impact forcing him onto his knees. Standing over him, Ark shatters his pride by breaking his perfect record. Ark reminds him of the ultimate humiliation for an assassin losing to a mage. Refusing to accept defeat, he lunges forward, screaming it was just a lucky hit. Unfazed by the outburst, Ark calmly prepares his staff for the final blow. But Black Skull disappears, activating his ultimate assassin move, Shadow Strike. Consumed by rage, he prepares a guaranteed stun from the shadows. Ark remains completely unfazed, even mocking the assassin's stealth ability. But Ark reveals he prepared an ultimate skill just for this moment. The announcer questions the sanity of using a slow spell against an assassin. It's a race of ultimate skills, but Ark is at a severe disadvantage. Driven by pure rage, he vows to kill Ark by maximizing his Synchro Rate. This ability allows him to slow his own perception of time to an insane degree. This mysterious system is a hidden mechanic not many players understand yet. The player gains a brief moment of absolute, godlike control. The assassin moves so fast the world itself seems to freeze around him. Pushing his body to the limit, he reaches an impossible 110%. In a flash, he's behind Ark, ready to land the final blow. But Ark isn't panicking. He's admiring the assassin's incredible ability. Because in this frozen moment, Ark feels like he can do anything. He scorns the assassin's desperate struggle, calling it pathetic. The assassin's world shatters as he sees Ark moving within his ultimate skill. Ark's spell finally erupts, a tidal wave of unstoppable magic. The world is consumed by an overwhelming torrent of blue light. In the real world, Black Skull can only stare in utter disbelief. His mind reels, unable to process that he actually lost to a mage. He rips off his headset, screaming in a fit of pure rage. In the real world, he lives by the creed of survival of the fittest. This man, Park Ennoe, just learned that rule doesn't apply in the game. For him, the game was a chance to escape being a real-world loser. His real life was a nightmare of constant abuse and humiliation. Now he eagerly awaits the moment he can crush his rival, Hyunjung. This is the story of a real-world loser's life in the Interverse. The most popular of these worlds is the massive RPG, Heroes of Time. And within this game are the top rankers who rule over all others. Meanwhile, a professor at a prestigious academy is contemplating a difficult decision. His assistant interrupts his thoughts, asking what's troubling him so deeply. Tia Kim asks if he's decided on the students enrolling by recommendation. The assistant praises the professor's creed of giving chances to hidden geniuses. He found a middle schooler on a stream and measured their Synchro Rate. The tablet displayed an unbelievable result that defied all known limits. He questions if the system was hacked or if this is a genuine prodigy. He immediately clears his schedule, intending to meet this player in person. He must confirm for himself if such a Synchro Rate is truly possible. Back in reality, Park En-Noe is relentlessly beaten by his bullies. He's kicked and humiliated while his classmates just stand by and watch. His rival Hyunjung is also lashing out after losing in the finals. His dream of entering the academy was crushed by a middle schooler on stream. His fury grows as he recalls the humiliating words from the match. The taunt suddenly makes sense as he realizes who Ark might actually be. Park En-Noe can only stammer an apology, not even knowing his supposed crime. A horrifying realization suddenly dawns on Hyunjung, leaving him breathless. He dismisses it as a coincidence, refusing to believe he lost to a loser. The pain and humiliation are nothing new to Park Enoe. But then a strange, unsettling laugh escapes his lips. He finds joy knowing Hyun-jung is also suffering from defeat. He targeted his bully, Hyun-jung, just to see if he could win in the game. He never believed winning in a game could fix his real-world problems. The teacher calls his name, pulling him back into his bleak reality. He numbly responds to the teacher's summons. His beaten face shows no emotion, only emptiness. The teacher can't help but notice his terrible condition. She completely ignores his injuries, asking a trivial question instead. His mind screams at her for her inaction and failure as a teacher. He cynically concludes it's because Hyunju's family has money and influence. He saw everyone around him as grotesque and monstrous creatures. The teacher's voice snaps him back, asking if he's even listening. She roars his name again, her patience finally completely gone. His distorted vision transforms everyone into grotesque monsters. But in the game, he was a god, carving a path of destruction. He was the one in control, the one who left others in the dust. He feels refreshed, declaring the game is the only stage that matters. Killing monsters and gaining experience was the path to becoming stronger. Here, he could finally be himself, feeling the power of a melee weapon. The game's class system forces a permanent choice between 3 core roles. He naturally chose the DPS class, believing games are about dealing damage. His in-game fortune was so large it could solve his real-world problems. The game's gold could be exchanged for real-world cash, a life-changing feature. He couldn't cash out yet, but he was determined to build a massive fortune. But his thoughts are suddenly interrupted as he senses something is off. He's forced to block a sudden ambush from a menacing masked player. He glares at the attacker, demanding to know what his problem is. But another voice reveals this isn't a random encounter at all. The leader berates his underling for failing to land a clean hit. Park Enoe demands to know the reason for this unprovoked attack. The leader reveals their sinister motive is to steal his gold through a PK. The leader threatens his underling, making Park Enoe wonder if they're zombies. He knows zombies are desperate players, often criminals, hired to farm gold. Worse, the leader's red eyes reveal he's a murderer who kills for profit. Park Enoe scoffs at their numbers, calling them low-lives who chose the wrong target. The leader explains their clever tactic of using only one murderer in the group. He's told to die without a fight, realizing their trap is to make him a murderer. But instead of fighting, Park Enoe simply turns his back on them. One of the zombies leaps high into the air to block his path. He effortlessly parries the attack with a single, swift motion. The zombie is sent flying back from the sheer force of the blow. But as he's distracted, a blade sinks deep into his shoulder. The leader mocks his futile resistance, holding him completely still. The blade digs deeper, agonizing pain shooting through his body. He rips the blade out, wondering why he's always the target. The leader orders his men to finish the job quickly. He recalls how even simple eye contact could trigger his tormentors. A single glance was all it took to become a target in his world. Fighting back means becoming a murderer and losing everything he's built. But he decides he'd rather lose everything than be a victim again. He explodes into motion, driving his blade into the zombie's neck. The attackers can only stare in disbelief at his sudden ferocity. He vows that in this world, he will never go down without a fight. He sees them as nothing but weak zombies, an obstacle to overcome. He promises to make them regret ever crossing him in this world. He roars that he is not a weakling to be pushed around. His eyes glow with a murderer's red light as he attacks. The leader is completely stunned by the ferocity he's now facing. He meets the zombie's blade with savage force. He embraces his rage, his blades crackling with energy. The leader reveals he's on a completely different level than his minions. The leader taunts him, saying how unfortunate it is he's now a murderer. He's now a murderer, meaning he'll lose up to 90% of his items in gold if he dies. A black bird with glowing eyes suddenly streaks across the moonlit sky. The strange bird lands on his shoulder, its talons gripping his armor. With the zombies defeated, he stands alone on a cliffside with his companion. The bird's eye projects a holographic screen, revealing a mysterious figure. The masked figure on the screen seems to be deep in thought. He reveals his true target was Ark, confirming he's finally found him. The scene cuts to Park Enoe facing off against a new, unknown opponent. Park Enoe is stunned, realizing this new opponent is incredibly strong. The mysterious player praises his skill with a confident smirk. He marvels at how he took down the group with precise critical strikes. The attacker grins, saying Park En-noe just made his day much busier. He lunges forward, asking if his inventory is full of valuable loot. But Park En-noe's glowing red eye tracks the incoming attack with ease. But the attacker's blade phases right through his perfect block. The impossible blow lands, leaving Park En-noe stunned and furious. His opponent sneers, questioning what happened to his earlier bravado. His eyes can track the movements, but his body is too slow to react. Unlike the arena, field PK is decided by raw stats, not just skill. A player with superior stats can completely dominate the entire fight. The attacker belittles his skill, calling him just a low-level student. He's told to go do his homework, a humiliating insult to his pride. But in his rage, Park En-noe unleashes a blinding flash of power. Out of nowhere, a mysterious swordsman intercepts the would-be fatal blow. The attacker cedes, demanding to know who dares to interfere. The masked stranger reveals he also has business with Park En-noe. The masked man cuts to the chase, asking Ark about his recent arena match. He then accuses him of using an illegal program, a charge Park En-noe denies. The first attacker explodes with rage at the stranger's sudden interference. The attacker is completely baffled by this strange line of questioning. He asks if Park En-noe really achieved a 400% synchro rate. Park En-noe himself is stunned, having no idea he reached that level. The masked man reveals that Ark's synchro rate reached an impossible 400%. He explains that a rate that high is unprecedented, accusing him of using a program. Even the first attacker is stunned, revealing he never bothered to measure his own rate. The attacker is stunned that Park En-noe was completely unaware of his own potential. But suddenly, a strange creature appears, announcing it received a report. It's a moderator NPC here to investigate the illegal program accusation. Park En-noe is completely baffled by the moderator's sudden appearance. He's ordered to replicate the feat, but he denies using any illegal program. The moderator clarifies that PK is a legal action, but cheating is a permanent ban. He desperately denies the accusation, facing a permanent ban from the game. But the masked man tells him the solution is actually quite simple. He demands that Park En-noe prove his innocence right here and now. The masked man points his blade, demanding Park En-noe prove his innocence. The first attacker realizes this might explain Park En-noe's surprising strength. He confirms the masked man will no longer interfere with his PK attempt. The PK eagerly volunteers to handle the supposed illegal program user. He lunges from above, demanding all of Park En-noe's dropped items as his reward. With his own red eyes glowing, Park En-noe meets the attack with a perfect parry. The attacker admits he just assumed his synchro rate was slightly higher than others. Park En-noe is shocked to learn his rate is double that of his rival Hyunjung. The masked man reveals that Park En-noe is the first recorded case of this level. The Pika realizes that simply reacting to attacks is far too slow. He must predict every move by reading his opponent's joints. But Park En-noe's own senses are already predicting the prediction. His heightened senses track the blade aimed at his left shoulder. The moderator reveals a synchro rate of 220%. His mind is already a step ahead, predicting the vertical strike. He deflects the vertical strike, his body moving on pure instinct. The force of his counter sends a shockwave through the attacker's body. The Pika reels back, realizing Park En-noe is anticipating his every move. The attacker is stunned, questioning if Park En-noe can see the future. The moderator's scan confirms no illegal programs are being used at all. Instead, his synchro rate has exploded to an unbelievable 527%. The masked man is speechless, realizing the rate broke 500%. He wonders if he's witnessing the birth of a true irregular. Park En-noe's eyes burn red, the immense strain of his power showing. He turns his back, demanding the masked man acknowledge he's not an illegal user. The masked man apologizes for his suspicion, but Park En-noe silences his next words. He thanks the man, realizing he is a special existence within the interverse. He declares with newfound confidence that he can't lose to anyone. He reminds Park En-noe that PK is legal and declares his intent to take his weapon. But he postpones their talk, saying they'll settle things after the fight. But the Pika breaks his word, landing a surprise attack on Park En-noe. A blinding slash of light sends him flying backward in shock. He panics, realizing death means losing all of his precious items. The Pika gives him a final taunt, a name to search for to get revenge. His vision fades to black, the game over screen marking a devastating loss. Alongside the virtual world, Other fields like robot engineering also advanced rapidly. This new era saw robots replacing humans in countless jobs across society. One such robot, named T1, had been a boy's guardian for a decade. T1 couldn't hide its surprise when it found Park Noe weeping in his room. He asked his robot what to do, a rare sign of his true despair. T1 wondered what could be worse than the usual bullying he endured. Its dictionary defined this new, overwhelming feeling as pure, unadulterated anger. He chokes back tears, asking T1 who could be so cruel. The robot's anger flares, vowing to destroy the source of his master's pain. And with that thought, the robot silently slips out of the apartment. T1 confronts Park Noe about losing all his money and in-game gold. The robot scolds him for wasting money while he defends it as an investment. T1 calls him an addict and tells him to find the player who stole his items. He questions why anyone would return items that are worth real money. But Park Noe confesses he's never once asked for a favor in his life. T1 prepares to teach him a legendary skill for asking for difficult favors. T1's ultimate technique was the way of the snail. He finds the Pika and begs for the return of his items and gold. The attacker is stunned into silence by the sight before him. The Pika is completely thrown off by this bizarre display of begging. He awkwardly tells Park Noe the grand grovel was completely unnecessary. But of course, this act of kindness comes with a catch. He offers to return the items, but only if Park Noe answers some questions. The Pika reveals a binding interverse contract with harsh penalties for lying. Park Noe realizes the contract forces him to be truthful or lose everything again. This contract is an absolute system designed to ensure all trades are fair. Park Noe sees no disadvantage and realizes he has his own questions. The Pika agrees to answer his questions, acknowledging his obvious curiosity. He adds his own conditions, forcing the Pika to answer his questions. With the contract signed, his lost items and gold return in a flash of light. Overjoyed, he proposes they take turns asking one question at a time. The Pika fires his first question, wanting to know if he's really a middle schooler. With a confident smirk, Park Noe denies it, thinking he can fool the contract. But the system instantly punishes his lie, stripping him of everything he just got back. Park Noe is left speechless, wondering how the system knew he was lying. The Pika explains the interverse operates directly on a player's brainwaves. Realizing he can't lie, he finally admits he's a middle school student. Humbled by the system, he meekly asks to retrieve his scattered loot. For his turn, Park Noe demands to know why he was targeted at all. The Pika reveals his true motive is to scout him for a pro gaming team. The Pika dismisses his question, turning the tables to ask about his dream. Park Noe scoffs at the question, stating he just wants to make money. The man reveals the team is for the prestigious Fairyland Academy League. Park Noe realizes he's talking about the legendary Fairyland Academy. He confirms his love for games, a dream he never thought possible. For the first time, he dares to wonder if he can actually go to the academy. The man confirms Park Noe can enter the academy if he proves himself worthy. His next question is a hypothetical about fighting a foe with superior stats. Park Noe grins, confidently accepting the challenge of a hopeless fight. But the question triggers an unexpected and unsettling memory. He questions why his real-world tormentor, Hyun-jung, is on his mind now. He knows the answer is yes, but it feels like a lie to his real-world self. He clenches his fist, his answer a betrayal to his real-world self. He admits he doesn't want to fight a battle he knows he will lose. The Pika listens in silence as Park Noe explains his pragmatic refusal, but he realizes that a match is never over as long as he refuses to give up. The man then explains the annual academy-wide competition for students. Teams coached by professors all compete to represent the entire academy. He explains how countless students fail, their dreams consumed by the brutal competition. Protecting one's own dream means crushing the dreams of everyone else. He then asks if Park Noe has what it takes to become that one MVP. The man holds a blade to his throat, asking if he has the courage to survive. He confesses his hatred for losing, using the game to defeat his rival Hyun-jung. But in reality, he never fights back, telling himself he can't lose a fight he never joins. He is forced to confront a terrifying hypothetical scenario. He wonders how he could possibly face an unbeatable foe. The face of his real-world tormentor flashes in his mind. He calmly states that the answer is completely obvious. He's already proven he'll fight back, no matter the odds. But the Pika interrupts, declaring it's his turn to question him. He flips the script, asking if the team needs a true ace in its ranks. His opponent can only stare, taken aback by the boy's bold declaration. He declares that he does, accepting the challenge with a touch of his hand. The man reveals Park Inoe's high synchro rate is useless without real skill. He explains that a recommendation is all he can offer for the academy. He presents a final challenge: endure harsh training for the next 3 months. Park Inoe accepts the offer with a confident grin. He expected the training to start tomorrow, but it began immediately. The man had sent him to a strange location to meet someone new. He's met by a mysterious girl who is clearly waiting for him. She asks if he's another one of the professor's recommended students. She realizes he's completely unaware that he has other rivals for the spot. He dismisses her words, saying his rivals don't matter at all. Before he can finish, she explodes forward with a vicious kick. The blow sends him flying, the force of the impact staggering him. She lands with impossible speed, the ground cracking beneath her. He demands to know the reason for the sudden, unprovoked attack. But before he can react, her hand is already gripping his face. A brutal blow slams into his chest with incredible force. She scoffs that his high synchro rate is the only reason he is still standing. With a wild grin, she challenges him to a proper fight now. This legendary academy is the ultimate goal for every aspiring pro gamer. He's completely baffled, demanding to know what she means by a fight. She's surprised he's not reacting, realizing he lowered his pain sensitivity. He angrily refuses to tell his attacker his pain perception percentage, but her menacing aura intensifies as she demands he answer the question. He admits it's 1%, and she's disgusted a coward has a high synchro rate. He's shocked to learn that players endure pain just to boost their synchro rate. She threatens to hit him 20 more times so he'll feel the same pain. He questions her annoyance as her fist hovers menacingly before his face. But this time, he catches her fist, stopping the attack hold. With a grin, he asks if she thought he'd just take it again. His eye glows, daring her to show him that same feeling as before. Her confident smirk vanishes, replaced by genuine surprise. He unleashes a powerful shockwave, blasting her away. Far away, a mysterious figure pulls up Park Inoe's personal file. The assistant learns the professor paid for 3 months of VR access for him. He confirms Park Inoe's synchro rate is special, but he has weaknesses to fix. That's why he's enlisted a girl named Carrie to teach him this harsh lesson. The assistant worries that Carrie's brutal lesson will traumatize the new student. But the professor believes in the unexpected, in monsters who defy all expectations. Meanwhile, another player with a menacing mask logs into the interverse. Carrie gleefully calls out to the professor, having trapped Park Inoe in a lock. The professor watches on, wondering if he expected too much from his new student. She screams at the professor for help, calling him by an insulting nickname. The professor is absolutely mortified by the nickname Carrie just used. Ignoring her, he decides to formally introduce the two rivals. He introduces the new student, Ark, a DPS who will be training with them. He reveals Carrie is also a DPS, a recommended student selected 6 months ago. Park Inoe is shocked to learn she's a rival, but she just scoffs at his ignorance. The professor already foresees a chaotic and difficult future for the two rivals. The professor stops Carrie, asking for her thoughts on her new rival, Ark. She scoffs at the very mention of his name, her disdain for him clear. A confident smirk reveals she sees him as nothing but a weakling. The professor asks if the beating felt bad, rubbing salt in the wound. He asks if there are more monsters like her, but the professor confirms it's just them. The professor asks for his thoughts on facing his new rival, but he remains silent. He finally speaks, realizing there's more to being a pro than a high synchro rate. He recalls how Carrie moved with trained precision, feeling like he'd hit a wall. He explains that using his synchro rate left his body feeling completely drained of strength. The professor explains that pushing his synchro rate to the max causes a burnout state. He finally understands why the Pika was able to land that final, devastating blow. The professor reveals that true pros master hand-to-hand combat and mental fortitude. The professor reveals the spar was a lesson, confirming Carrie has trained for 6 months. But Park Inoe just smirks, vowing to surpass her in only 3 months. He's stunned as the professor bluntly states he doesn't expect him to catch up to Carrie. The professor reveals Carrie's true weapon isn't a skill, but her innate battle sense. Her incredible physical control is a natural talent she was simply born with. She also dedicates her entire day to the game, making it impossible to catch up. The professor offers to provide an environment focused solely on his training. A shocking realization dawns on him. He won't have to go to school anymore. It means he can finally escape the daily torment from Hyeonju's gang. A wide, genuine smile spreads across his face, but his smile fades as a new resolve takes hold. He tells the professor he has a few things to settle at school first. His eyes burn with resolve as he prepares to settle his real-world scores. The next day, he returns to the school he so desperately wanted to escape. The teacher's voice drones on, calling up names during the morning roll call. But the teacher's call goes unanswered as his seat remains empty. His rival Hyun-jung can only stare, wondering where his target went. The day ends without a single sign of Park Enoe anywhere. He calmly waves goodbye to his classmates for the last time. He walks away from his old life without a single glance back. He taps his earpiece, ready to begin his new life. Hyun-jung smirks, believing the loser he tormented has finally disappeared for good. He remembers Park Enoe as a talentless loser with no parents to protect him. He believed Park Enoe deserved the beatings just for being an annoying sight. Hyun-jung smirks, feeling much better now that the trash is finally gone. He tells his cronies the loser should have vanished a long time ago. But his eye widens in shock as he sees something impossible. He stares in utter disbelief, questioning who this person could possibly be. But it's Park Enoe, taunting his bully for waiting for him. He asks if Hyun-jung is curious about the identity of Ark, his conqueror. Hyun-ju's world shatters as the impossible truth finally hits him. Park Enoe stands tall, finally admitting he is the legendary player Ark. He declares it's time to settle their score, but this time in the real world. A player's synchro rate is tied to their avatar's physical similarity. Hyun-jung admits the glasses he wears in real life are completely fake. They were nothing more than a prop for his character creation. He crafted a persona of a silent student just to survive at school. He separated his miserable school life from his powerful game persona Ark. This dual life was his clever strategy for surviving his harsh reality. He'd always believed that in real life, you just accept your misfortune. This was his excuse for never fighting back against his tormentors. But now he steps forward, shattering that old belief with a single truth. He challenges Hyun-jung to a real-world fight, his confidence soaring. Hyun-ju's face contorts with disbelief and a hint of fear. He can only stammer the question, asking if the loser is really Ark. Hyun-jung takes a step forward, finally accepting the impossible truth. But Park Enoe simply stares back, asking what he's going to do about it. Enraged, Hyun-jung throws a punch, threatening to beat him into submission. He stops the punch, reminding himself he simulated this exact fight countless times. His first move is a calculated taunt to shatter Hyun-ju's mental state. He unleashes the ultimate insult, calling him terrible at the one thing he values. The taunt hits its mark, shattering Hyun-ju's composure completely. Hyun-ju's rage explodes as he prepares to throw a punch. He recalls a lesson from a famous fighting game streamer. He counters the telegraphed right-handed punch with a precise kick. The strategy came from the streamer Fightum 029's accidental leak. Hyun-ju's fury erupts, asking if he thinks he can win alone. His body moves on instinct, blocking the punch and striking back. The impact sends a jolt of pain through his own body. But Hyun-jung abandons all form, unleashing a wild flurry of attacks. He endures the desperate flurry, calling his bully's punches weak. But Hyun-ju's mind reels, his own simulations completely useless now. Seizing the opening, Park Enoe delivers a crushing blow to his tormentor's face. Hyun-jung stumbles back, completely stunned by the unexpected counterattack. Park Enoe taunts him, saying his fighting style is as pathetic as he is. He pins his tormentor to the ground, asking if he still looks weak now. But he's suddenly struck by one of Hyun-ju's lackeys. His bully taunts him, saying this is what he gets for fighting back. Hyun-ju's eyes glow blue as he asks if he really thought he could win. With a single word, he confirms his unwavering belief in victory. He mocks his bully, saying he's nothing without his lackeys. To add insult to injury, he spits directly in his tormentor's face. The ultimate insult pushes Hyun-ju's fury to its absolute limit. He roars that he'll kill him, unleashing a punch with all his might. The brutal impact sends Park Enoe crashing into a nearby utility pole. The impact leaves Park Enoe gasping for air on the ground. Hyun-jung gives him a final, chilling warning to disappear forever. He walks away, leaving his victim with one last humiliating insult. Hyun-jung taunts him, asking if he's finally scared enough to run. But even on the ground, Park Enoe's fight is far from over. He roars that he hasn't even landed a single proper hit yet. With a defiant roar, Park Enoe surges back to his feet. Enraged, Hai Anjung calls him a crazy bastard and tells him to die. He plants his foot firmly, preparing for his next move. He ducks under the wild swing, his movements fluid and precise. But his body suddenly gives out, his legs failing him mid-motion. He realizes with horror that his legs are completely paralyzed. The professor's question about fighting an unbeatable foe haunts his thoughts. For the first time, he's truly resisted Hai Anju's relentless abuse. He wonders what really changes when facing an unbeatable foe, questioning the professor's lesson. A voice in his head tells him it's finally okay to rest. He feels himself sinking into an endless, welcoming darkness. But then, he remembers the feeling of a blade in his hand. He recalls boldly asking the scout if his team needed a true ace. That single word, ace, now feels like a bitter joke. He curses his past arrogance, a promise he couldn't keep. That broken promise fills him with a burning shame and anger. A sudden surge of adrenaline overrides the paralysis in his legs. He's trapped in the fight, unable to even feint to escape the pain. He can only watch as the final, crushing blow approaches. The punch connects with a sickening, bone-shattering crack. His consciousness shatters as he's sent flying backward, but his body rises on its own, fueled by a will that refuses to break. His mind clears, a single thought burning through the pain and exhaustion. He knows he must defend his new dream, his only chance at a real life. He looks up at his tormentor, utterly confused by what's happening. But Hai Anjung can only stare back, his face a mask of pure terror. His crony shouts insults from afar, declaring the fight is officially over. Park Enoe questions if this impossible strength is truly his own. A wave of emotion washes over him as he finally breaks free. The scene suddenly shifts as a door is thrown open with force. He stumbles back into his apartment, greeted by his robot companion T1. T1 asks about his friend, completely unaware of the brutal fight he just survived. He collapses from exhaustion, but T1 just continues its programmed nagging. The robot continues to nag him, asking when he'll fix his bad habits. But its nagging turns to shock as it finally sees his master's face. Park Enoe casually dismisses the panic, lying that he fell down some stairs. T1 immediately sees through the lie, questioning the severity of his wounds. But a triumphant and genuine smile spreads across his beaten face. He jokes that he completely pummeled the stairs in retaliation for his injuries. His new life begins at a quaint inn somewhere in the vast game world. His new mentor is impressed, admitting he settled his affairs faster than expected. He confidently declares he's ready to start his intense training immediately. He boasts about his perfect farewell, leaving the professor completely bewildered. His mentor then begins to explain the ultimate goal of his training. He explains 10 professors at the academy each led their own gaming team. This created an imbalance, forcing the school to create a special rule. Park Enoe correctly guesses this special rule is the recommendation system. Each professor can recommend to outsiders, who must pass a rigorous exam. The weight of the exam hits him, realizing failure means losing everything. But the professor confidently tells him there's nothing to worry about. He reveals the next 3 months will be a brutal crash course in fundamentals. His training begins with a simple suit and a list of 4 brutal schedules. The first part of his regimen was a series of daily lectures from the professor. He learned about Synchro Rate, combat theory, and a pro-gamer's mindset. The second part of his training was a brutal physical regimen. T1 oversaw his real-world stamina training to overcome his weak body. The third part was to grind for 10 hours a day inside the Interverse. And the last part of his training was the most brutal of all. A daily regimen designed to push him far beyond his limits. He had to endure 2 hours of hand-to-hand combat against Harry. She declares his Synchro Rate is banned, questioning why she has to train him. She taunts him for raising his pain perception, making the beatdown more enjoyable. He silently curses Carrie's name as another brutal blow lands squarely on his face. Carrie gleefully admits that beating him up is actually kind of fun. He realizes that to fight monsters like her, he needs a new weapon. A weapon that isn't just his impossibly high Synchro Rate. Another brutal punch from Carrie sends him reeling backward. But he remembers the lesson he learned from his fight with Hai Anjung. He knows that if he never gives up, a path to victory will appear. He roars that a path to victory will always open up for him. But Carrie's fist just tells him to shut up and take the beating. And just like that, 3 brutal months of training finally came to an end. With his bag packed, he was finally ready for the next chapter. T1 nags him one last time, but he snaps back that he's already checked. He quickly puts on his shoes, worried he's going to miss his train. T1 offers a final piece of advice as he rushes at the door. The robot watches him leave, worried he'll trip in his haste, but a flicker of pride and affection shows on its robotic face. It looks at a photo of his parents, remembering it's been 5 years since they left. The robot tells them their son finally has a dream to become a pro gamer. The boy who once only cried is now moving forward with a determined look. The robot explains that the academy entrance exam is finally tomorrow. It asks his parents to cheer for him on his important journey. He dives onto the train, racing towards his newfound dream. He catches his breath, having barely made it onto the train. This express train is a direct line to the city of his upcoming exam. But the reality of the exam hits him, and his nerves begin to fray. The doors slide shut as the train begins its journey forward. The futuristic station blurs past as the train accelerates to incredible speeds. He admits this is his first time ever visiting a real city. He worries about letting the professor down after such a huge investment. He tells himself to have confidence after all his brutal training, but his confidence vanishes, remembering he never once beat Carrie. A sudden lurch snaps him out of his spiraling thoughts. The entire express train screeches to a violent, unexpected halt. But outside the window is an impossible ocean sunset. He jumps to the window, laughing at the incredible sight. The reality of his journey to the academy finally sinks in. The train speeds towards the academy, his ultimate destination. The train finally pulls into the station, the city glowing in the sunset. He immediately spots a familiar face waiting for him on the platform. The professor waves him over, ready to begin the next phase of his journey. The professor greets him with a casual wave, confirming he's Park Enoe. The man, Takim, explains he's a guide sent by the professor. Takim lifts his sunglasses with a charming and confident smirk. Takim welcomes him to the sprawling, futuristic metropolis. They travel through the city, a dazzling landscape of light and technology. Takim explains this luxury hotel is for recommended students like him. Park Enoe is stunned by the luxury, asking if he deserves such treatment. Takim comments on how innocent he seems compared to his in-game persona. He then reveals a shocking truth. He's the one who recommended him. He reveals his true identity is the famous streamer, Planet Man. Park Enoe is completely speechless at this shocking revelation. But his reaction is muted, having never actually watched the stream. He asks Takim if there's a place to log into the Interverse. But Takim explains the professor wants all the students to rest well. The guide's next word hints that there's a catch to this rest. Takim proposes a deal so he can skip his duties and go on a date. Park Enoe desperately agrees, even promising to subscribe to his channel. He's led to a massive gaming lounge filled with state-of-the-art VR pods. He refuses to rest, determined to explore this new virtual city. He enters the mirror world, a perfect digital replica of the city. It's a famous tourist spot where players can feel like superheroes. He logs in, his avatar materializing in a flash of digital light. Back in the real world, his body is safe inside the high-tech VR pod. He marvels at the sensation, feeling like his avatar is in the real world. He runs out into the virtual city, eager to explore everything. The dazzling cityscape is filled with countless other players and avatars. Vendors even offer to deliver virtual food to the real world. The virtual city is alive with countless players enjoying the digital world. He's completely in awe, wondering if people actually live in this space. But he shakes off his wonder, remembering he's here for a specific reason. He's here to visit a legendary landmark in the virtual city. A confident grin spreads across his face as he finally finds it. It's the statue of Faker, a monument to the world's greatest gamer. The statue honors Faker, a legendary gamer who retired at his absolute peak. He remembers an internet rumor that praying to the statue brings good luck. He desperately prays to pass the academy's entrance exam, unaware he's being watched. He's stunned to find his rival Carrie praying at the very same statue. She furiously demands to know why he's even here in the first place. He asks if she's nervous too, but she's insulted by the very idea. She calls him out for breaking the professor's orders to rest before the exam, but she declares the rules don't apply to her because she's the team's ace. He tries to escape the conversation, but she demands to know his real destination. She tells him not to waste his trip, cruelly adding he can't go to the academy. He demands to know what she just said, and she coldly repeats her insult. He questions his entire 3 months of training if he can't even go to the academy. In 132 duels against Carrie, he lost every single time, but overwhelming defeat only ignited his desire to become stronger than ever. He spent every waking moment trying to find his own way to beat her. He saw Carrie as a rival he respected and wanted to surpass with his own strength. That's why her cruel words came as a complete and utter shock. He roars that he won't lose to her forever, catching her completely off guard. She takes his defiance as a challenge, daring him to fight her right now. His eyes burn with a new fire, accepting her challenge without hesitation. A wide, predatory grin spreads across her face, eager for the fight. They rush towards each other, their final duel before the exam begins. A blinding flash of red energy erupts as their powers finally collide. But Carrie's fist slams into him, a brutal reminder of her overwhelming power. Carrie is shocked by his counter, demanding he take back his defiance. He roars that he will pass the exam and enter the academy no matter what. And now he demands he take back her insult, stunning her into silence. She dismisses his outburst, asking why he's stating the obvious. She throws him to the ground, refusing to take back her harsh words. He screams in frustration as she confirms he can't go to the academy. She reveals the academy is a restricted zone for outsiders in the mirror world. He's stunned by this revelation, realizing he didn't even know this basic fact. He realizes she wasn't insulting his skill, but she calls him a loser for his assumption. Carrie's tone shifts as she finally acknowledges him as her teammate. She then threatens to kill him herself if he dares to fail the exam tomorrow. He is overcome with emotion, her harsh words a sign of true acceptance. He breaks down in tears, clinging to his rival in a moment of relief. She casually suggests they grab a bite to eat since they're in the same hotel. But as he lies on the ground, a sudden and suspicious thought crosses his mind. He realizes her offer to eat means he'll finally meet her in real life. But just as he's about to log out, someone suddenly approaches his VR pod. A mysterious student stands before him, asking if he's the play arc. His thoughts turn to Carrie's real-world appearance, a complete mystery to him. The only thing he knew for sure was her incredible skill for her age. And of course, he was intimately familiar with her violent personality. He'd pieced together an image of her from 3 months of brutal beatings. His mind conjured a terrifying monster, a demon of pure violence. So he couldn't understand why the person before him looked nothing like that. She asks with a friendly smile if he is the player known as Ark. He can only stare, wondering if this normal girl is really his rival. He flinches in terror as she confirms her identity, telling him not to be a wimp. She suggests they learn each other's real names, introducing herself as Lee S.I.A. He's still in shock as he stammers out his own name, Park Inoue. With a warm smile, she extends her hand to formally meet Park Inoue. The two rivals sit down for a simple meal of ramen and kimbap. He's surprised to see her enjoy such a simple meal with pure delight. But she eats so much she passes out, as Takim asks about his hometown. He's shocked to learn she's from F-City, a place called the Demonic Realm. He realizes she's lived her whole life in a city with the highest crime rate. Her words make him question the harsh reality of the life she's lived. SIE suddenly brings up their duel, catching Park Inoue completely off guard. She correctly deduces his new strength came from training with his Synchro Rate. His determination earns a smile from SIA, who finally sees him as a worthy rival. He asks how she was scouted, and she casually admits she fought the professor. Their first meeting was a brutal duel inside the HAOT game arena. She admits the professor was on another level, predicting her every move and beating her every time. He's amazed that the professor could defeat a monster like Carrie in a single strike. She reveals his in-game ID is Hide and Bush, but he's completely untraceable online. He's shocked to learn that even SIA has never met the professor in real life. He wonders what kind of person would recommend them to such an elite academy. But he knows all his questions will be answered at the exam tomorrow. Meanwhile, the professor himself looks on with a deeply worried expression. The professors of Fairyland Academy gather for an urgent late-night meeting. They're shocked to learn the exam details will be announced last minute. The professor worries about what kind of test the director has prepared. The professor is called out by name, his attention drawn from his worries. A rival professor named Vizen asks if he managed to scout any good talent. Professor Lee deflects, but Vision proudly boasts of finding an amazing genius. But another professor cruelly dismisses Lee's students as nobodies from the slums. Professor Lee recognizes the arrogant man as his rival, Professor Seiler. Lee calmly retorts that stagnant water rots, a jab at the academy's elitism. But Vision unexpectedly sides with Lee, revealing his own student is from F City. Seiler scoffs, believing the academy is declining because of professors like Lee. His anger boils over as he kicks the table in frustration. The academy director finally makes his grand entrance into the meeting room. He apologizes for being late, but his sly expression suggests it was intentional. He then reveals he's come up with a fun new twist for the entrance exam. With a sinister grin, the director finally reveals the exam's true nature. He explains the exam will be a brutal battle royale for all students, but he clarifies a point system based on kills and survival will decide the winners. But the director adds another twist, asking for their training footage. Using the footage, they will now divide the 20 students into ranks. The students will be divided into D, C, B, and A ranks. And to top it all off, there will be one legendary S rank student. This mysterious S rank will be given a special bonus in the exam. The director asks if they're excited, but Professor Lee is deeply troubled by his true motives. With a chilling smile, he announces the ranking will begin now. As night falls over the city, the exam draws ever closer. Back in his hotel room, Park En-Noe collapses, the weight of the exam crushing him. He recalls Carrie's social nature, worrying she noticed he's never had real friends. He can't help but wonder if his rival feels any of the same crushing anxiety. Tomorrow is the academy's entrance exam, and failure means everything was for nothing. He desperately prays for a miracle, hoping he can pass the exam. The director confirms all 20 students have now been ranked from D to S. He announces one student was unanimously chosen by the professors as S rank. He asks if any of the professors have a problem with the choice. Professor Vision is stunned, calling the S rank an unbelievable monster. But Professor Lee can only worry, hoping his students will be okay. The director begins by revealing the names of the D rank students. And to Professor Lee's horror, Park En-Noe's name is the first one called. The next morning, the students finally head towards the exam site. His D-rank status weighs heavily on his mind as he enters the academy. The reality of his situation sinks in as he sits in the high-tech exam room. He was immediately guided to this waiting area upon his arrival. He's been waiting for an hour, told only to read the exam rulebook. The anxiety kept him up all night, and he never got to meet the professor. He begins to wonder if he's destined to fail before it even starts. He slaps himself with the rulebook, trying to regain his focus. He recalls his perfect record of defeat against his rival, Carrie. He vows to finally score his first win against her by beating her in the exam. He vows to fight Carrie with everything he has, including his Synchro Rate. An announcement suddenly declares the exam is about to begin. He turns to his VR pod, the moment of truth finally at hand. He steels his resolve, vowing to win no matter what happens. A flash of light transports him to a mysterious throne room, but he's stunned to find himself in a hall with dozens of other students. He's completely bewildered, questioning if this grand palace is the real exam site. A sudden realization dawns on him as he sees the other students. The room is filled with his rivals, the other 19 recommended students. He scans the crowd, understanding these are all the recommended students. He turns to Carrie, vowing that his losing streak is finally over. He boldly declares that today is the day he will finally surpass Carrie. But Carrie just stares back, her expression completely unimpressed. She suddenly grabs him in a chokehold, furious that he would ignore her. But her rage is cut short as a voice suddenly interrupts their fight. The voice belongs to a man on a throne. Noting all 20 students are present, he introduces himself as the academy director, a man named Jimmy Fullhouse. The director explains this exam will prove if they're truly worthy of their recommendation. The director hopes they've all read the rulebook for the upcoming game. He explains the exam is a fantasy battle royale where only one will survive. But he clarifies that passing requires skill, with a huge bonus for the final survivor. But a confident student suddenly speaks up, asking the director a question. He questions the meaning of ranks, the detail he noticed in the rulebook. The director explains that a core theme of the exam is the fight for ranks. He explains lower-ranked students can steal the rank of anyone they manage to defeat. But there's a catch. No one will know their own rank until the first kill is made. The director then reveals a final, shocking twist. There's a single S rank among them. He promises the mysterious S-rank student will receive the highest honors. One student's eyes gleam with ambition at the thought of being S-rank, but another student questions the fairness of the entire ranking system. She furiously protests the ranking system, calling it completely unfair. The director coldly asks if she's refusing to accept their evaluation. He challenges her to drop out of the exam, leaving her speechless. He reminds them that Fairyland is the world's top academy for pro gamers. He explains that pro gamers must perform under unimaginable public pressure. He says this pressure is what forges a true star, telling her to look behind her. Her eyes widen in shock as she finally sees the truth behind his words. He reveals the true audience, the countless shadow eyes watching their every move. This pressure, he explains, is what separates a true star from a nobody. He sees the same thought on every face, each student convinced they are the S rank. He silences all objections, telling them to prove their worth through their gameplay. With a final command, he tells them their only goal is to prove themselves. He tells them to prove with their gameplay that they belong at the academy. The promise of the best environment ignites a fire within Park Inoue. With a final word, the director declares the game has officially begun. The 20 students are transported into the digital battlefield. Professor Lee watches them go, wishing his students good luck. The world dissolves into a loading screen as the exam finally begins. The first choice is where to begin, a decision he already made. He confidently selects his starting point on the massive island. A flash of light signals his arrival as the exam officially begins. He lands in a lush forest, the exam's battlefield, now his reality. A confident smirk spreads across his face, ready for the exam to begin. But he quickly snaps back to focus, recalling the professor's first lesson. He recalls the professor's lesson that early game farming is the key to victory. He'd already planned the perfect route to get the best items before the zones closed in. But his brilliant strategy begins with finding a pair of low-rank steel panties. He's completely baffled by the useless pair of steel panties he just found. He knows that early fights waste precious time and ruin his late-game chances. He reassures himself that the massive map makes an early encounter impossible. But his confidence is shattered by a sudden, nearby presence. He turns to see another player with a strange white helmet. The player's cold stare reveals a distinctive scar across his eye. But the player's helmet is a bizarre-looking snowman head, and beneath it, his face is a mask of pure, unadulterated terror. Their player IDs flash, Arc versus Gynus, the first fight of the exam. The system identifies the two combatants, examinee number 11 Arc and examinee number 7 Gynus. Back in the viewing room, the professors watch the first encounter with keen interest. Professor Lee can only lament Park Inoue's terrible luck for meeting someone so early. Vizen smugly tells Lee that their students are about to face off. Professor Lee agrees with Vizen, knowing this early encounter is a huge problem. The director values entertainment, so avoiding the fight will negatively impact their evaluation. The professors agree the smartest move is to avoid a fight, but both players stand up. They stand face to face, making the professors question if a fight is inevitable. But in a shocking twist, they both turn and walk in opposite directions. The professors question if they're really just pretending not to see each other. Professor Seiler mocks them, calling them pathetic cowards for avoiding a fight. But the game has a system designed to force these exact kinds of encounters. Every 5 minutes, a new danger zone appears, forcing players closer. But the high stakes of the exam made everyone incredibly cautious. The deadlock was finally broken by the appearance of a special item. A player with a purple aura announces she's found the trail of another student. It's Carrie, and she realizes the other students are just hiding from each other. She calls them all cowards and decides to be the first to start the hunt. Meanwhile, another student has delved deep into a hidden labyrinth. He's completely stunned by the incredible treasure he finds inside. It's a legendary sword, the highest ranked weapon in the entire exam. Examinee number 19, Lucky Puncher, boasts that his incredible luck is still with him. In just 30 minutes, he's fully equipped with unique and powerful items. But as he declares victory, a mysterious figure appears from the shadows. The mysterious figure challenges him, ready for a fight. But Lucky Puncher just smirks, eager to test his new legendary weapon. She wastes no time, lunging forward to begin the battle. Their blades lock in a shower of sparks, a battle of wills beginning. Lucky Puncher mocks her, pointing out she hasn't even farmed for items yet. But she just smiles, saying his good items will be hers once she kills him. He scoffs at her, wondering if she understands the importance of items. But his confidence is met with a sudden, shattering crack. His legendary sword's hidden ability, equipment destruction, activates. Her weapon shatters, but she declares she'll gladly take the exam's first kill. She flips under his desperate swing, her movements impossibly fast and fluid. She unleashes a skill, creating multiple clones that rush toward her stunned opponent. He's completely stunned, unable to comprehend her impossible movements. She unleashes an acrobatic skill, shattering his confidence with her raw power. He asks if his sword broke from her effect, but she just mocks his ignorance. She clarifies that he's completely misunderstanding the situation. He just can't beat her. But Lucky Puncher defiantly pushes himself up, refusing to accept her words. She taunts him, saying that true skill only shines when you are at a disadvantage. He roars in defiance, asking how she can possibly win without a weapon. He swings with all his might, but she flips over his blade with ease. Before he can even react, she locks him in a powerful chokehold from behind. A sickening crack echoes as she ends the fight in an instant. She flips away, sending him crashing to the ground in a burst of light. Lucky Puncher can only gasp in agony as his game comes to an end. Her movements are blur, far faster than he ever anticipated. She delivers a devastating blow directly to his face. A brutal combo slams into his chest, shattering his armor and his will. He's stunned by her raw power, wondering how she's so strong barehanded. He accuses her of cheating, convinced they didn't start the game on equal footing. She scoffs at his accusation, telling him he just doesn't understand the game's mechanics. She reveals a core mechanic of the Interverse's advanced physics engine. It allows a player to properly follow the flow of their avatar's power. This lets them execute devastating attacks even when completely unarmed. He curses his terrible luck for encountering such a monster so early. A single, terrifying possibility suddenly dawns on him. He asks if she's the legendary S rank, but she just gives a cryptic smile. She taunts him, saying he's about to find out the hard way. With a final decisive strike, she eliminates Lucky Puncher from the exam. A system message appears, announcing the first kill will reveal everyone's ranks. But he's saved at the last second by an unexpected system announcement. His attacker was in fury, refusing to let her prey escape so easily. She's furious that someone else managed to steal the exam's first blood. She stares in utter confusion at the unexpected announcement. The name on the screen is none other than the player arc. The story flashes back 10 minutes to a fiery, volcanic landscape. Park Inoue pans heavily, the volcanic heat bearing down on him. He raises his shield, preparing for the fight he tried so hard to avoid. But Gynus realizes with dread that he's facing a formidable opponent. Gynus can immediately sense that Park Inoue is incredibly strong. 10 minutes into the exam, they were trapped in the treacherous flaming mountain. Park Inoue curses his bad luck. His entire farming strategy now completely ruined. He'd assumed the vast map would keep him safe from other players. He spotted a treasure chest, a chance to salvage his disastrous start. But his brief moment of hope was crushed when he found the chest was empty. But inside, he discovered a well-balanced sword and shield. The rare shield even came with a powerful counter skill to stun his foes. His confidence restored. He challenged anyone to a fight, except for Carrie. He stares intently at the chest, a bead of sweat tracing his temple. But another player suddenly emerges headfirst from the treasure chest. He wonders why the player is stuck, realizing he must still be alive. He deduces the player must have disconnected from a real-world emergency. He reaches out cautiously, tapping the player's shoulder to check on him. But the player suddenly springs to life, sending Park Inoue stumbling back in shock. The blue-haired player glares back, his expression a mix of annoyance and exhaustion. Park Inoue is frozen in place, completely stunned by this bizarre turn of events. The player groggily asks for 5 more minutes of sleep inside the treasure chest. Park Inoue is in utter disbelief, wondering if the player was actually sleeping. The sleepy player finally wakes up, asking if Park Inoue is another applicant. He casually admits he fell asleep from the warmth while farming in the exam. Gynus calmly asks if they should fight, leaving Park Inoue feeling like an idiot. But he realizes there's no reason to go easy on this bizarre opponent. He charges forward, eager to finally test the results of his brutal training. He recalls the professor's lessons and Carrie's brutal combat training. He attacks with confidence, sure that a sleepy opponent is no match for him. but his sword swing is met with a completely unexpected result. Chinus is completely stunned as Park En-Oi's sword is stopped cold in mid-air. But his surprise turns to understanding as a system message appears before him. Vision points out that his and Professor Lee's students have met once again. Vision clarifies that Lee's student is the unlucky one for meeting his protege, Han. He reminds Professor Lee about the incredible genius he boasted about finding in F-City. Yet his profile shows he was measured as a D rank, just like Park En-Oi. Vision admits his student's laziness meant he refused to film his training, but this inadvertently turned his student into an unknown secret weapon. Chinus recalls his professor's promise that the exam would be entertaining. Chinus realizes with a shock that he's been completely deceived by Park En-Oi. He realizes the sleepy player was just an act. Now his movements are impossibly sharp. Park En-Oi understands he's met a truly powerful opponent right from the very start. He remembers his shield has a special counter skill that can stun his opponent. But Chinus just smirks, daring him to attack with everything he has. Park En-Oi blocks the blow, but Chinus recognizes a familiar rhythm in his defense. Park En-Oi is completely confused by his opponent's strange comment. A sudden burst of power sends him stumbling backward from the impact. Chinus then unleashes a strange skill, a crescent of light at his heel. Park En-Oi perfectly times his block, activating his shield's counter skill. But he's completely stunned, wondering how Chinus predicted his every move. He recalls the professor's lesson on the Interverse's mystery system, the Synchro Rate. Vision explains the Synchro Rate can grant transcendent senses, making time slow down. This led him to question the very limits of the Synchro Rate itself. A rumor then led him to F-City, searching for a boy with a strange power. Vision explains that in Han, he saw a new potential for the Synchro Rate. Han could hear his opponent's breathing, their heartbeat, and their every mental shift. But this godlike ability was like a cheat code that made the game boring. Han's Synchro Rate affects his auditory sense, letting him predict intent by heart rate. This skill combined with his perception makes him unbeatable in a mental battle. He then tells Professor Lee that his student has simply run out of luck. But Professor Lee questions if his student has truly run out of luck. He reveals that Vision isn't the only professor with a secret weapon. Park En-Oi can't believe he's facing an opponent of this caliber so early. Park En-Oi recognizes the immense power his opponent possesses. But Chinus notices a sudden and unexpected change in Park En-Oi. He senses his opponent's heart rate spike, assuming it's fear. But Park En-Oi realizes this isn't fear, it's the thrill of a real challenge. He never expected to face an opponent that would force him to get serious this early. He focuses his mind, deciding to break the Synchro Rate limit he saved for carry. Chinus vows not to be careless as he launches a ferocious assault. He sees Park En-Oi is baiting a stab, so he decides to attack the side. But Park En-Oi stands ready, anticipating his opponent's every move. Chinus moves to strike the opening he heard, certain of his victory. But Park En-Oi's shield meets his blade with impossible precision. Chinus is stunned. The opening he sensed with his powers was a complete lie. Chinus attacks again, certain he can find the real opening this time. But Park En-Oi raises his shield, perfectly predicting the incoming strike. He holds his ground, the powerful impact rattling his entire body. He perfectly executes the defensive form he practiced for months. Chinus unleashes a decisive strike on the opening he thought he heard. But his blade is stopped cold, his senses completely deceived. The other professors are left completely baffled by Lee's sudden confidence. He explains En-Oi's D rank is a deception, his true power yet to be revealed. He prepares to reveal his existence as an abnormal Synchro Rate holder. Chinus presses his attack, but Park En-Oi's defense is unbreakable. A deep confusion sets in as his godlike senses begin to fail him. He was certain he heard openings, yet his blade was blocked every time. Chinus explains that every time he attacked an opening, the shield blocked him. He questions if Park En-Oi is baiting him, but the openings look too real. This means Park En-Oi isn't predicting, he's reacting instantaneously. His opponent introduces himself as Han, asking for his name in return. Han compliments his skill, admitting this fight is more enjoyable than sleeping. But his compliment comes with a warning as he prepares to get serious. Han declares he hates losing and will now fight with his full strength. A strange, dark energy suddenly manifests in front of a confused Park En-Oi. The energy detonates in a massive, blinding explosion. He accuses Han of running away, believing the explosion was just a diversion. but Han instantly appears behind him, revealing the explosion was a feint. Before he can react, a blade impales him from behind in a flash of pain. Park Eno is stunned, wondering how Han located him so precisely in the smoke. Han reveals his Synchro Rate amplifies his hearing, letting him hear everything. He can hear his opponent's footsteps, his breathing, and even his racing heartbeat. He's stunned, realizing Han can pinpoint his location by sound alone. His only chance is to escape the thick smoke screen and reset the fight. But another explosion erupts, blocking his only escape route. Han warns him not to move, surrounded by dangerous magma craters. He's trapped, knowing the smoke only gives Han a massive advantage. He calms himself, realizing the smoke will fade and his shield skill is ready. He realizes his only hope is to push his Synchro Rate to its absolute limit. He recalls another of the professor's lessons. The standard way to use Synchro Rate is a trigger. The professor had explained it's a habitual action he must perform to activate his power. He remembers that every time he used his Synchro Rate, he exhaled in a specific way. The professor taught him to control it, making exhaling the start and holding his breath the stop. The professor had warned him that using his full power would cause a dangerous burnout. The professor had explained that experiencing burnout meant certain defeat in the game. He knew it was a desperate gamble, a single all-or-nothing attack. But he knew that to be a true ace, he had to succeed at this very moment. But Han is caught off guard by a sudden change in his opponent. He realizes Inoue is using the magma to guard his back, his heartbeat now eerily calm. A smirk spreads across his face. Intrigued by this all-or-nothing gamble, Park Inoue decides to answer Han's all-or-nothing bet with his own. He takes a deep breath, focusing his mind for the coming clash. His plan is to block the attack and stun Han with his shield skill. He has to stop this one attack with everything he has. But a system announcement suddenly interrupts the fight, revealing their names. The director questions why two rank-level players are both ranked as D. He points out Han's Synchro Rate is over 300% with a rare auditory effect. He then turns his attention to the other student, Park Inoue. But what he sees in Park Inoue's profile leaves him completely stunned. The director understands Professor Lee had a powerful joker hidden up his sleeve. He can't help but smirk, impressed by the professor's cunning deception. Back in the game, Han declares victory, convinced his opponent was too slow to react. But a strange red light flashes across Park Inoue's determined eyes. He was waiting for the perfect moment to activate his shield's counter. The sudden turn of events leaves Han completely stunned and confused. Park Inoue unleashes his own counter, a perfect reversal of the attack. The shield erupts with a blinding flash, absorbing the entire blow. The shield's counter skill activates, leaving Han completely stunned and vulnerable. He's stunned that his body moved on its own, reacting instinctively to the attack. But he shakes off his confusion, knowing he must seize this golden opportunity. He unleashes a devastating blow, determined to finish the fight right now. Han is sent reeling as the full force of the attack connects. With no time to waste, he unleashes a decisive finishing blow. His blade slams into Han, the impact shattering the very ground. The blade sinks deep, a fatal blow that decides the entire match. Han admits defeat, shocked that Park Inoue could react to his attack. As he fades away, he promises they will meet again someday. Han removes his helmet, the sting of his first defeat still fresh. He thinks about the player who beat him, a new rival named Ark. He finally agrees with his professor. The academy might actually be fun. He casually accepts his defeat, deciding to just take a nap for now. The force of his final strike leaves his sword embedded in the ground. He pants in exhaustion, barely able to believe he actually won the fight. He questions the strange feeling, a power beyond his normal Synchro Rate. A system announcement confirms he scored the exam's very first kill. He wonders if beating such a strong foe means he's the legendary S rank. The system finally reveals his rank, and he's placed in the D tier with Han. His incredible victory suddenly feels hollow, a mere fight between two D ranks. His attention then shifts to the top of the board, where the S rank reigns supreme. He wonders just how powerful the legendary S rank student could possibly be. The director's calculating gaze sweeps over the unfolding chaos. He notes with satisfaction the various reactions to the rank reveal. Some students planned, others hid, and some were just disappointed. But a fourth type viciously hunted for the legendary S rank. Carrie is furious that she lost the first kill to Inoue and isn't number one. She declares she'll crush the S rank herself to reclaim her top spot. The director notes that just as he planned, everyone is now hunting the S rank. A sly smile spreads across his face, his grand experiment unfolding perfectly. He wonders what the S rank will do, their true power a complete mystery. The S rank is located in the Barrens, a desolate and lifeless wasteland. But another player immediately appears, casually greeting the S rank student. The rank player Roy taunts the S rank for hiding from the hunt, but the S rank seems completely unfazed, asking if he's here for a fight. He admits he can't stand anyone being ranked higher, and he's not alone. He's surprised to see 3 other students have already formed a hunting party. The leader of the group mocks him, pointing out a loophole in the rules. They demand he hand over his rank, but his eyes burn with defiance. The S rank student simply closes his eyes, completely unbothered by their threats. He scoffs at them for believing items and numbers could ever guarantee victory. He introduces himself as king, promising to show them a whole new world of power. Back in the viewing room, the professors murmur amongst themselves. The display confirms the S rank king is facing an A rank and to B ranks. Professor Silo is called out, as 2 of his own students are in the hunting party. A female professor angrily calls out Silo for his students' unfair tactics, but Silo points out that another professor's student has joined the hunt. The director cuts them off, declaring their argument is completely meaningless. He admits that teaming up was never explicitly forbidden by the rules. The director allows it, and Silo smugly calls it a strategic play. Vizen realizes Silo must have planned this with his student Royd beforehand. Royd is a genius from a powerful mafia family with incredible gaming skills. He's angered by King's defiant eyes, seeing no fear in his opponent. King's calm demeanor unnerves the hunters, daring them to make the first move. But Royd is clearly being forced into this fight against his will. He's being blackmailed by Professor Silo using his own father's weakness. His only way out is to help Silo's student win first place. The B-rank hunter unleashes a furious strike, screaming for King to die. But King effortlessly stops the massive weapon with just a single hand. The entire hunting party is frozen in shock by his impossible strength. The hunter is completely stunned by King's impossible display of strength. He then stops the next attack with just 2 fingers, mocking their weakness. With a single stomp, King prepares to unleash his true power. The hunter grinds his foot on King's head, mocking his pathetic resistance. For a fleeting moment, King's confident expression seems to completely shatter, but his shock instantly twists into a wide, terrifyingly confident grin. The hunting party unleashes a coordinated assault from every direction. Royd fires a powerful energy blast, aiming for a critical hit. But King stops the spear with one hand, ignoring the second attacker's blade. He catches the spear with ease, a confident smirk spreading across his face. He spins the captured weapon, unleashing a devastating counter-attack of his own. King mocks his fallen foes, calling the remaining hunter a mere baboon. King dismisses the hunter's skills, comparing him to a mere mountain wolf. Silo is called out for not recognizing King's power during the evaluation. But King's professor Musashi scoffs, saying tricks are useless against true talent. Musashi explains that King's very existence is like a glitch in the system. He says that normally, to gain a strength, you must accept a weakness. But King is a character with every single stat maxed out to perfection. Musashi adds that King's ego and belief in victory amplify his perfect stats. He unleashes a devastating blow, his mind never once imagining defeat. The hunter's faces contort in agony as his single blow sends them flying. Royd stares up in disbelief at the S-rank's impossible level of power. He finally understands the unpleasant feeling he's had since meeting King. To the S-rank, this life or death battle is just a source of entertainment. Royd roars in fury, his pride shattered by the S-rank's casual cruelty. Silas' smug expression vanishes, replaced by pure shock at King's power. King stands victorious, his casual smirk proving his absolute dominance. The professors are in disbelief, doubting any student can truly face King. The director admits King's overwhelming power certainly lives up to his name. He then considers 3 remaining students who might have a chance against him. His gaze falls upon 3 potential challengers to the S-rank's throne. He says a game's true fun is its unpredictability, hoping for a new challenger. The scene shifts back to the desolate barrens where the S-rank waits. Elsewhere, Park Enoe sprints for his life from a rapidly closing danger zone. He sees the safe zone's border, his only hope with just seconds to spare. With the timer hitting 1, he makes a desperate dive for survival. The timer hits 0 as his hand passes through the barrier just in time. Behind him, the ground erupts in a deadly wave of red energy. But his close call was witnessed by another player, who is left in disbelief. 50 minutes have now passed since the start of the entrance exam. The shrinking danger zones force countless skirmishes between the students, and the most noticeable player was King, with a dominant kill score. The exam has narrowed down to the final 5 survivors. In the silence of the murderous den, a single drop falls, and the final survivor in the den is none other than Ark. He feels his synchro rate finally returning to normal after the intense fight. But his focus shifts to the ranks. Seeing he's a D while carry is an A, he understands losing to carry, but can't accept being the lowest possible rank. He tries to refocus, checking the timer for the next danger zone closing in. But a sudden noise from outside immediately catches his full attention. He peers out to see another survivor resting on a nearby broken bridge. He instantly recognizes the player as the rank student, JYO. That means JYO is just as skilled as his rival, Carry, and his opponent is another one of the final 5 survivors. He mistakenly assumes JYO is the legendary S-rank student, King, but Ju's sharp senses suddenly pick up on a hidden presence. He turns and calls out the spectator, catching Park Inoue completely off guard. Park Inoue is stunned by Ju's incredible perception, unable to believe he was spotted. But their standoff is interrupted by a masked player furious at being ignored. The masked player activates a legendary item, charging at JYO with blinding speed. The masked player roars in fury, unleashing his full power on JYO. But JYO effortlessly blocks the powerful blow with a single arm. His eyes are completely calm, as if the attack was nothing at all. JYO taunts his attacker, asking if he really thought he had a chance. Park Inoue can only watch in awe at the overwhelming display of power. He realizes JYO is toying with an A rank, wondering if they're all monsters. He questions if a D rank like him could ever defeat an S rank. But Ju's attention is suddenly drawn to a commotion from above. He gets angry at himself for worrying about something as trivial as ranks. He remembers his vow to defeat Carry and claim first place. He realizes what he must do, his blade flashing to intercept the attack. The masked player is stunned as his blow is parried by the newcomer. He questions how JYO is blocking his attacks despite having the shorter weapon. All the skills he'd mastered over the years were completely useless against him. He can only stare in terror, wondering what kind of monster he's facing. JYO smirks, seeing the perfect opening in his opponent's attack. A single, precise strike lands, sending the masked player reeling back. He stands over his fallen foe, calling the one-sided fight anticlimactic. JYO scoffs, believing if this isn't a rank, conquering the academy will be easy. He questions if this is truly the best the world's top academy has to offer. But Park Inoue steps forward, challenging the player he believes is the S-rank king. JYO recognizes Park Inoue from earlier, surprised he didn't run away. Park Inoue declares he'd never run from a shortcut to becoming the best. JYO scoffs at his words, pulling up a screen to begin the fight. JYO points out that the academy rated Ark as a lowly D rank. He calculates they have 90 seconds to fight before the zone closes, but he confidently declares he only needs 20 seconds to win. Park Inoue is furious, questioning if he's being underestimated for his D rank. JYO scoffs and attacks, but his blow is met by Park Inoue's shield. But Ju's other hand moves, preparing a hidden dagger for a surprise attack. JYO unleashes a blindingly fast flurry of attacks from both sides. Park Inoue realizes JYO is swapping the dagger between his hands with incredible speed. JYO mockingly admits that for a D rank, Park Inoue is surprisingly skilled. He roars in fury, tired of being judged by his lowly D rank. His sword crashes against Ju's dagger with incredible force. JYO is stunned by the unexpected raw power behind the simple attack. Ju's shock quickly twists into a vicious, determined green. A flash of red erupts as the dagger sinks deep into his chest. The sheer force of the blow sends Park Inoue stumbling backward. He sees he's finally broken Ju's flawless combat stats. He knows this is his one chance to launch a counter-attack. He uses his shield not for defense, but for a powerful attack. He's stunned by the perfect timing of Ju's immediate counter-attack. JYO calmly reminds him that only 10 seconds remain on the clock.